Hello everyone, my name is Kitetsu and welcome back to my channel. Here it finally is, the long awaited part 3 of my lore series, where I'm going to finally give the Age of Myth the limelight that it deserves. These early parts will set the scene of the realms and will basically build up the backstory to the major events that occur in the Age of Sigmar, kind of laying the foundation of what is to come. More quote-unquote interesting stuff is going to follow for those looking to see the battles and key conflicts that drive the narrative of the Age of Sigmar. I really do have big plans for this lore series, so I really hope you guys can stick around with me for it. It's taken me so much time and effort, and there's still so much to do, but I'm so glad I can finally get this part out. And I'm actually slightly ahead of myself this time. I've got timelines, a rough script for the next part prepared. Hopefully it won't be anywhere near as long until part 4 comes out. This part actually ended up being so long that I've kind of decided to split it up, and I don't actually know as of right now where I'm going to stop. I'm just going to read out the script for about 10 minutes and see how that goes. And I'm not going to rush these parts out because they take so damn long to write. I'm just basically going to see how this process goes. Right, I used to do super long intros to these lore videos, and I kind of want to get to the point a little bit quicker with this one. So I just want to say one thing first. If you're new to my channel and this lore series, this is a pretty good time to get into this series. This video, and likely the next couple, occur alongside part 2. The first part was just a sweeping overview of Age of Sigmar, and it missed so much out that I basically went back and started again with part 2. So I would recommend you at least watch part 2 to see what Archaon is getting up to whilst all of these events are going on. But anyway, let's get straight into it. The old world lay in ruins. It was utterly destroyed. The forces of chaos had been victorious, obliterating all of the greatest civilizations to have ever existed. The armies and people that dared to defy them had been torn asunder. Great champions fought to their last dying breath. But all they could do, all they could ever ultimately achieve, was to prolong the inevitable. The old world was to fall, and not even the mighty god Sigmar could stop its impending, inescapable doom. The empire of mankind fell. In Lustria, the lizard men fell, their oldest and wisest members retreating to the stars to escape the cataclysmic events to follow. Bretonnia was torn apart by civil war. The elves were decimated. None could stop the tides of chaos and Skaven filth that spread across the planet. The planet was torn apart and broken. Fireballs rained from the sky, burning away entire towns in an instant. The planet's mightiest champions could do nothing but watch as the fires of destruction swept forwards to claim them. When the Chaos Gods were done with the planet, all that was left was a burning, molten, Sigmarite core hurtling through space. The old world had been transformed into hell. Raging, intemperate fires ravaged the last traces of civilization from that lost world. Everything was gone. Everyone was gone. The history, the life, not a trace of it remained. But one yet lived to feel this cruel damnation. Sigmar Heldenhammer clung to the burning world as it coursed through space. The Chaos Gods likely abandoned the planet before realizing he was still alive. Either that, or perhaps they even left him there to eternally suffer and feel the true extent of his failure. For Sigmar had catastrophically failed. He had failed to save lives beyond count. He had failed to stop the tides of evil from taking the world from him. He had failed to save the guardians and warriors that died in the losing war against chaos. He had failed to save the women and the children. All of them were gone. snuffed out like candles in a gale. With his failure, the world had ended, and all trace of its existence was lost to the confines of his memory, and he was left scorched, burning, in excruciating agony. The only thoughts in his head, aside from the blinding pain of the intense heat, were of guilt and failure. All had been for nothing. Why had he ascended to godhood, only to be left in such a pitiful state? What were the signs that he had missed? What threads of fate had he not followed that could have saved everything that he knew and held dear? Did he deserve this eternal punishment for failing to save those who needed him most? Such were the thoughts that plagued his mind, like the rotten corruption that infested the gardens of Nurgle. Sigmar spent an immeasurable time in unspeakable torment. It was only his godly powers that kept him alive, where all others perished. He lost track of all time, his sanity pushed to the very limits, his immense pain beyond measure. In the tempesting flames burning around him, he saw the faces of those who he had known and those who were no more. He heard them screaming at him, begging him for help, accusing him of breaking his oaths and failing in his sacred duties. In visions he saw mothers cradling their children, but as he reached out for them, they erupted into flame. Apparitions of fathers, warriors, sons, whole families were torn apart in front of his eyes before turning into smoke, embers and ash. Eventually, as Sigmar lay there, the life began to fade from him. His eyes became dull, staring but not seeing, reflecting the dancing flames of his failure. He gave in to the pain and ceased thinking. Deep within him, that spark of life remained, but Sigmar had become all but comatose. Years turned to centuries, and centuries turned to eons. Unbeknown to Sigmar, he had not been the only one to survive the destruction of the old world. Both darkness and light had fled from the perilous damnation of the planet. Many of the foul forces of chaos, including Archaon the Ever-Chosen, had passed into the realms of chaos. The Great Horned Rat saved the Skaven through sinister means, transporting them to the relative safety of Blight City, the Skaven capital, which would later merge with the realm of chaos. After the 8 mortal realms later formed, the Great Horned Rat spread his followers across the realms, aided by the fact the Skaven developed the ability to tunnel between the very realms themselves. As for the Slann of the Lizardmen, they took to the skies on great vessels. They escaped the destruction of the old world and ensured the survival of their species. Like Sigmar, the Slann were destined to drift through space for an immeasurable time. Later they would become known throughout the realms as the Seraphon, transcending from the mortal beings they once were into something more ethereal and mystical. Indeed, the oldest and mightiest of the Slann even transcended death. As the eons passed, strange phenomena occurred with many Slann. As their bodies died, their spirits still lived on, tethered to their lifeless bodies, which acted as hosts for their spirit. Such was the fate of many of their mightiest members. As for the mortal realms, their true nature is not quite understood, for they are held together by a strange balance of magic and matter, but they burst into existence shortly after the destruction of the old world. With the destruction of the old world, the mortal realm was fragmented. A density of magical nebulas exploded across the cosmos, swirling and colliding on an unimaginable scale. This formed the blueprints that would later give rise to the mortal realms themselves. Using their magic to see across vast distances of space, the Slann watched from their vessels among the stars as the realms formed. The matter of the universe slowly began to clump together, but instead of condensing down to a single point, it did so in 8 different regions. At these points, the realm spheres formed, which themselves crystallized into immeasurable magical landmasses suspended in the void of space and surrounded by raw magic. One theory for the creation of the realms, perhaps the most likely, is that the godly beings, magics and energies that were disordered during the end times were simply redistributed within the universe, for it is simply not possible for these forces and energies to be destroyed. This means they simply rearranged themselves elsewhere, under the watchful eye of the Slann. Some characters and beings from the world that was refused to let go of their lives and existence. Many gods persisted, their essence transporting to the mortal realms, and in turn, as they manifested into physical beings, they saved as many of their followers and kin as they could. Some of the most powerful sorcerers of the old world also survived, calling upon forbidden magics, not fully understood, to preserve their souls and ensure that they would continue beyond the ruination of their world. Beings like Alariel, the goddess of life, had always existed in one form or another, and continued to do so after the old world was destroyed. Many returning champions from the world that was materialized within these realms, in a state of hibernation, having ascended to godhood. So too did other beings and races continue to exist in the new realms, intimately linked to one another through a series of magical portals. So the 8 realms were born: Gyran, the realm of life; Azir, the heavenly realm; Shyish, the realm of death; Chamon, the realm of metal; Gur, the realm of beasts; Hysh and Ulgu, the realms of light and shadow; and aqshy, the realm of fire. Hysh and Ulgu are forever stuck in a binary relationship of light and shadow, swirling around each other to create the night and day cycle of the realms. To those residing within the realms, they may appear infinite, but in reality the realms do end. The centre of each realm is a region of stability where life can be supported, but straying too far from these foundations, however, is a treacherous endeavour. The raw magics at the edge of the realms begin to bend the distinction between that which is real and that which is not. Tales tell of those who, foolish enough to wish for death, have sought the edges of the realms, dedicating a lifetime of travel to reach them in their strange pilgrimage. Upon doing so, and taking a step too far towards the edge of the realm, they simply cease to exist, engulfed by the maelstrom of swirling magic at the realm's end. Others speak of these pilgrims undergoing horrific, irreversible transformations into different forms of matter, becoming one with nature, the elements, and even the wind. If these tales have any basis of truth or not, few can say, but all know that the realms become less stable and more tumultuous the further from the centre one travels. The edges of the realms were best left to fools and madness, and those who wished to carry out their strange, energy harnessing experiments. Those who valued life cast those unrestrained regions from thought. Okay guys, I'm going to leave this part here. That's probably about 10 minutes of recording. In the next part we are going to see who the Zodiac Beasts are, we're going to see what happened to Slaanesh, and we are also going to see the moment when Dracothian meets Sigmar. I hope you enjoyed it. I can't wait to get this series kind of up to date. I can't wait to get more of it out, and I can't wait until we finally caught up with where the malign portents is at. That's probably going to take quite a while with how ambitious this series is, but yeah, I really enjoyed reading that out. I really enjoyed writing it. I kind of like adding my own twist to the narrative and dramatizing it a little bit more. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you soon with the next part.